Hey y'all. So today I wanted to talk about a bit of what I've been learning and integrating as I learn and processing as I learn, which has to do with my focus on identity work, which for those of you that are unfamiliar with identity work is where you decide on the identity that you want to embody. And then you take aligned actions as if aligned actions that go with that identity. So the identity work that I've been doing a lot around is I am Poppy, the Flower Queen. I am a conscious and abundant steward of Mother Earth. And so some aligned actions that I have been taking are like I took Amazon off of my phone because a conscious and abundant steward of Mother Earth would not have Amazon on her phone. Um, I've been way more conscious about using our reusable shopping bags. I am extremely grateful as I drive my new to me SUV and take care of her and love on her because that way I'm not contributing to having like a new car made for me and then trading it in every few years, which is really hard on the planet. I adopted like a manatee which is like $25 a year, but it's still me taking like the aligned action because one day I desire to really put big investments into like eco-friendly environmental type programs. But meanwhile, the aligned action that I am able to do or have been able to do thus far is taking care of a manatee for $25 and also like presenting the option to my clients like, hey, if you donate $5 to $25 to any like wildlife nonprofit here in Florida, I will go ahead and discount your energy session. And then that's me being an abundant and conscious steward of Mother Earth, right? And so identity work, like you have to take the actions as if like you are that identity, and then eventually you become that identity. And so this video is just to share some of my learnings, which that right there is some of the learnings for sure, because it feels good to take aligned action. And at first, when you're learning about aligned action, especially if you have like a identity that seems just really difficult to lean into and transform into, it's nice to know you could just do little tangible things here and there, and little by little, more and more opportunities will present themselves for you to further your aligned actions. Um, which Chris has also been working on doing identity work about being an abundant and conscious steward of Mother Earth as well. And he has been playing with the idea of discounting his artwork if someone donates to like a nonprofit wildlife type of program here in Florida or on the beach since we live on the coast. And like that's our way of giving back in a way that we can at this time, which is completely valid. And it goes with the identity work. And it just shows that we're trustworthy with the identity work that we're leaning into, right? And so with identity work, there is the topic of beliefs, right? And so it's really important to understand what your beliefs are, what your beliefs have been, what beliefs have been your ancestors, what beliefs you'd like to keep, what beliefs you'd like to let go of, and then what beliefs like you'd like to create for yourself, right? And so for me, it was really interesting with like our move to Florida because it caused me to go through a huge, massive fear purge, which um went on for a little over a month. It was very intense and it taught me so much. And I wanted to like share that with you all. Um, and yeah, like here we are in like the beginning month of like the Chinese New Year. So like the year is officially wrapped up and it just feels like the right time to talk about this. And one of the big ones for me is I was really forced to lean into and exercise and trust the belief that I had created for myself about a year ago, which was like, well, I guess it was a belief that was already there. It's just a belief that I became more articulate, or like I articulated a bit more and refined a bit more and really made mine, which is the belief that God and Goddess are so much bigger than man-made systems. And so I've always had that belief. I've always known I was taken care of, even when life kind of sucked. Like I don't know, I knew. And things always did work out for me. I just didn't understand it was working out for me because of that belief until it was made conscious to me. So anyways, when we moved to Florida, I had repeatedly told Chris, because he was worried that we weren't going to get the place that we wanted. I was like, look, if it's ours, it's ours. Like God and Goddess will align it for us so that it falls in our lap and we are accepted. And it like was 2 months of like struggling, looking for a house. Because you do have to like do your part in like manifestation work and identity work, right? And so we kept making sure that we stuck with the paper that we had written out of all the things that we wanted in our house when we moved from New Mexico to Florida, which Chris would get off track and I'd be like, nope, go back to the paper, look at the paper. Like if it's not on the paper, we don't want this house. And so because of that, after 2 months, we moved into the perfect house, which Chris was worried about credit and a co-signer. And I was not worried about that whatsoever because I've always had it work out for me in life that I've never needed credit or a co-signer to rent anywhere. And I have the belief that when it comes time to buy a home, like if it's our home, God and Goddess can move whatever constructs are in the way to make sure that we get that home. And so like this place took us with like no paycheck stubs, no co-signer, no credit. It was perfect. And I think it really helped Chris understand like the belief, like the validity of the belief that I have and how strong that belief is, that it was able to work past his own disbelief. Which that's a thing too. Like if your belief is stronger than someone else's belief, you can sway things in your favor. And so it worked past his disbelief because I believed so strongly that we were going to move to Florida and it was all going to be endorsed by spirit. And I believed that we'd move into a house that would accept us regardless of like our job situation. And that is what happened. And it's happened to me so many times that it really like reinforces that belief for me. However, then I was really called to like lean in and expand upon and refine that belief of like God and Goddess being bigger than man-made constructs when we moved because right before the move, we had purchased my SUV. I call her Queenie. We had purchased Queenie a few days before the move, and we had done a change of address. And when we did the change of address, which I'd never done a change of address before, when we had done the change of address, I just assumed Queenie's title would go straight to the house within like a couple weeks, is what I thought. However, it ended up taking a couple of months. And the reason it took a couple of months was because then of course, we moved like right at the start of like the pre-shadow phase of Mercury retrograde, which Mercury tends to kind of make things get lost in translation and slow things down in the mail and reroute things. And it all does it so you learn and grow, which I definitely learned and grew during that retrograde. And so when we moved, then the Florida post office did a change of address on our behalf also. And then the vehicle title just like kept taking forever to come. Like every week I would check and it wouldn't be there. And I was starting to freak out because I didn't want to get in trouble for not having my vehicle up to Florida standards. But then at the same time, I was like, well, it hasn't arrived in the mail. And at that time, I was learning what it is to be a manifesting generator. And so with manifesting generators, they talk about how they don't initiate, they do better when they respond. If a manifesting generator is constantly initiating, they get really frustrated or overwhelmed. And so it was a valuable lesson in teaching me not to initiate and jump into something that would cause more stress in my life, but instead to wait, which is important for manifesting generators, to wait and then respond once you receive or are asked or delivered, whatever it is that is needing responding to. And so I kept hearing it in my head, like this like memory of when my mom mailed me a card and it took 3 months to get to me. And while I didn't think the title would take 3 months, I had a feeling it was going to take a long time. But then that ego part of me, that fearful part of me that was still plugged into like patriarchal programs and societal programs and man-made structures and stuff was like getting kind of fearful and scared because it was like the unknown. But then the universe was calling me to lean into my identity work as Poppy the flower queen, which I'm sorry, like a flower queen that's an abundant and conscious steward of Mother Earth. Mother Earth and Father Sky and the universe are going to move past all kinds of constructs and systems to deliver what that conscious and abundant steward of Mother Earth requires in order to be abundant and conscious. Meanwhile, they wanted to make sure that I was ready to receive the next phase of embodying the identity work that I set out for. So over the course of about 8 weeks, I had to wait and wait and wait and work through my fear and regulate my nervous system and keep leaning into my understanding of like what it is to be a manifesting generator and respond, which not having the title in the mail meant there was nothing to respond to. Because then if I called the DMV or if I went to the DMV, that was me initiating. I wasn't responding to anything. So that was like really, really crucial for me in expanding this belief that like God and Goddess could work past like systems. And it was really crucial and important to me to help me expand into the identity of being Poppy the flower queen, an abundant and conscious steward of Mother Earth, which at that time I was also working on embodying and understanding and truly believing the uh, identity work and the affirmation work around like this mantra that I had heard that was, I do not chase, I attract. And I truly felt that and still feel that in my body and my bones. I do not chase, I attract. And so every time I would start to freak myself out about the title, I would be like, I do not chase, I attract. And that would be like my mantra to pull me out of that downward spiral. But meanwhile, the fear that did activate, I would allow myself to purge. I would take baths, I'd go on bike rides, I'd go stretch. Like I would work it out of my system. And I realized what the universe was doing was it was little by little wringing out all the fear in me, all the uncertainty in me, all the fight or flight in me, so that I could really lean into this identity that I have created for myself. And it was not a comfortable process at all. However, thankfully, I was by myself a lot, which is like it's like a catch-22 in some ways because like it was terrifying to be by myself. Chris was like in another state. I wasn't sure if I would get in trouble driving Queenie around, and then like we couldn't like register his vehicle right away because he was out of state, and so like it was just really scary for me because I didn't want to break the law. But then eventually it just kicked in. I was like, oh, like post office is just another system, just like the credit system and like the rental system. It's just another system made by man that God and Goddess can totally transcend, but they're like trying to teach me that and expand my belief. And so, yeah, over the course of about 8 weeks, I just had to like keep waiting and being patient and leaning into this new information and integrating this new information and embodying it and trusting, like really radical trust in something that was like so new to me. Um, and waiting for it to arrive. And then basically when like the Mercury retrograde shadow phase started to wind up or wrap up or whatever, that's when the title arrived, which was like a huge breath of fresh air. Because then I could go get my vehicle titled and then I could start my name change process for Poppy, which I was waiting on that. Um, and yeah, so it was like so important for me to lean into and understand my beliefs and to trust my beliefs and to take aligned action, which the aligned action was to wait and trust what I was receiving, what I was hearing, which the ego is usually going to make you feel kind of scared. But if it's coming from your soul, like it's going to be reassuring. And that was another thing I did is like when I was really going through the thick of the fear, like I was like, what would my soul like me to know today? And then I would write a channeled message to myself, and it was always very reassuring. And um, yeah, like I did that for several weeks and then eventually it tapered off. And then I started to go more into my pleasure, more into trusting the process, more into play, which was also new to me and kind of scary because I was like, oh my God, what if I'm wrong? And then I go to jail. And I started catastrophizing, which I've been working on for several years in therapy to not catastrophize. But sometimes we go backwards in our healing journey, right? So then, yeah, I would catastrophize, get more fear purged out of me, and it was just not a fun process at all. But then it worked out so much better, and wetter, as I would say, if I was with the sister goddess, than my wildest dreams, because the card title did arrive. The titling process was like super easy. And then basically, when Chris got back, his was super easy because he also had to get his title from New Mexico. Um, and then, yeah, everything else that we'd kind of been like worried about or like waiting for it to come through just all started to click into place once we like had passed like the initiation around our fear purge and like understanding ourselves and our new identities and like working through emotions and de-armoring to love and surrendering to love through the miles so that way we could unify more in love as a team together once Chris came back. He was gone for about 2.5 months. And yeah, during that time, I really leaned into doing the identity work and cultivating like self-love, self-awareness, self-respect. Really gained a new understanding of trusting the process. And I gained a new understanding of my belief system around like God and goddess transcending like government-made systems. And I gained a new understanding of like how identity work worked for me. Like anytime I would wear a flower crown and during that time and be like, I'm Poppy the Flower Queen. I love being of service to people. People love being of service to me. Like I always got the most helpful people and I still do. In fact, I took that with me as part of the lesson was to always have that one because it's so nice to be serviced by people that genuinely want to help you. And so yeah, it helped me just work out all kinds of fear around like the MVD also, like those other times when I moved, I don't know why everybody always gets nervous at the MVD. It's like we're all on our best behavior there and then we drive like assholes everywhere else. But like it really helped me work out a lot of fear with MVD. We worked with really nice people at the MVD. And yeah, like I don't know, like it just, yeah, it was valuable lessons for me. So, and I'm even looking at like this little thing on the wall and it says always believe in yourself. Like, man, like the power of belief systems, they're so strong. So if you're watching this video and you found it helpful, or maybe you're in a similar situation where you're like in the waiting game kind of phase and don't know what to do, maybe share what helped in the comments, or maybe try channeling to yourself. What would my soul like me to know today? Ground yourself, practice self-soothing where you like regulate your nervous system through touch. Maybe do breath work where you breathe in, hold your breath, exhale, because when you breathe like that and hold your breath, it tells your nervous system that you're safe. Um, And then also, I don't know if any of you watching are working on manifesting some pretty big things in your life, but realize as you're going through like the unknown and a fear purge, like you are in a co-creative process with the universe, and the universe understands you're going through a fear purge. In fact, they've orchestrated it for you. They will hold space for you as you go through it. Like your manifestations aren't just going to go down the drain. Your life's not going to go down the drain. It's just to get out all that downward spiral thinking that makes you think that that the fear purge is probably going on in the first place. So just trust the process, breathe through it, ground yourself, soothe yourself, do yin yoga, go for bike rides. If you're by a beach, go to the beach. If you're by a forest, go to the forest. Whatever works for you. Journal a lot, get it all out. Don't judge yourself as you journal. And just allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised by what shows up for you once like it all starts to wrap up. And just know that as you're in the thick of it, it's going to feel like it's never going to end, but it does end and things get exponentially better. Like you got this, you do. And I'm proud of you for making it this far and being open to what this video is offering you. And yeah, Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I hope this was helpful a little bit in teaching you about identity work and belief work. Eventually, I will be creating a class on belief systems. I'm not sure what platform I'll have it on. I'd like to teach it in person and online. So we'll see what I can do with that. And then hopefully that can help you even more. In the meanwhile, thank you so much and be well. Aho.